بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم بعد. Alhamdulillah, we thank the Almighty Allah for giving us an opportunity. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Today, Sunday, I believe the 21st day of Rajab, 1444 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It also corresponds, I believe, with the 12th day of February 2023. The last time we spoke in Sirah, we spoke about the reaction of Khadija radiallahu anha when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, went to, when he received the first revelation. So he came home, and Khadija played a very, very important and vital and pivotal role in that incident. And this led us to have a discussion concerning the kind of spouse you need to choose when you are settling down. The marriage to Khadija radiallahu anha, if it didn't have any purpose at all, her reaction towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he came from Ghar al-Hira is enough evidence for us when we are discussing, choosing a spouse. And we made mention that as a parent, you have an obligation, a duty to guide your children in choosing spouses. And this will only be possible if you put them on the right pedestal when they are young ones. Sometimes I want to use a very nice word here. Sometimes we dodge responsibility as parents. And we want things all to fall in place naturally. It's not going to happen like that. If you want the kids to come out right, you need to put in the effort now. If you leave it to chance, you're going to see some results that you don't want. So as a parent, especially as a man in Islam, in choosing a spouse, you need to be very, very careful. Because if you have the wrong woman in your room, that is a recipe for disaster. The food you're cooking is going to be burnt. The whole kitchen is going to come down. So you need to be very careful. And the younger ones that are here, it's not about the beauty. Every woman is beautiful. It's not about, the intimacy that you want to get from her. Every woman has that. It's about the quality and then the character that the person comes in. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, when he was getting married, after the death of his first wife or second wife, I forgot, he was going in for another woman. And then he was told of two women. One woman who was blind in one eye, but pious and very, very, knowledgeable. And the other woman, very beautiful woman, long hair, and I believe his son Salih was like, "Father, choose the beautiful one." He said, "No." He said, "Ya Salih, I didn't come here into the world to enjoy goodies. I need a woman who is going to give me some stability." And also for the woman too, it's like that. You need to find someone, as a man, who is going to guide you to Jannah. It's very important. You let the daughters and the girls understand that it's not about the flashy cars, the huge mansion, the deep pockets, the fat check. No. It's not about that. I know of women who are married to rich men, but these women are always in sunglasses. Do you know why? They are being punched on the face day and night. So when they are going to town, they are riding in their own beautiful cars, but then they are in sunglasses, because they don't want people to see their faces. So you enjoy the money, but at the same time at the risk of being with an abusive man. So it goes both ways, that when you're looking for a spouse, you need to be very careful. And as a parent, you also need to guide your kids. You know that in Islam, we are not allowed to force our kids to marry the ones that we want. So for example, if you find a nice person for your son or your daughter, you need to, upgrade that person in the sight of the child. You need to polish the person and give the child the reasons, to accept that person. You don't impose on them. And most often than not, you realize that sometimes some of the kids will come with, potential spouses, and you, the father, the moment you see that person, no, this is not going to happen. It happens, but so I think that's the cue we can take from, last week's lesson, that the correct, choice of a spouse that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made. Even though historically it is said that Khadija was older than him, 15 years older than him. And then she's been married to 2 men before him. A 25-year-old man is setting out in life and he's getting married to the first time. Then he's getting married to a 45-year-old woman who has been married twice before him. So it tells you that choices in spouses in general goes deeper than the physicalities that we see. Wallahi, if you only look under your nose when you're choosing a spouse, you have a problem when you want to see the future. May Almighty Allah safeguard us. So the Prophet Muhammad after coming from Dar al-Hira, Khadija, taking care of him, and then you go and see Waraqat ibn Nawfal. Now it's time for work. The message that he has received is not a message that he is going to keep for himself and himself alone. I think this mic is giving us echo.
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
No, this mic was supposed to be for Holy Salah, and this other mic is supposed to be for lectures. So let's change this. This is better. Alhamdulillah. So the message that he has received is not a message for him to put it in his pocket, and stay alone. It is a message for humanity. It is a message for the whole of creations, not only human beings. The message of the Prophet Muhammad is for the jinns, and then it's for the animals, it's for everybody. Don't forget the hadith of the camel who met the Prophet Muhammad and the camel started weeping. And the Prophet Muhammad put his ears near the mouth of the camel, and the camel spoke. And the Prophet Muhammad turned and asked, "Who is the owner of this camel?" And the young man said, "Ya Rasulullah." He said, "Why are you punishing him? The camel is complaining. You don't feed it well, and then you are overburdening it with what? With work. So you guys should be careful in how you treat animals." So the message of Prophet Muhammad, that's why Almighty Allah said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We sent you as a mercy to al-alam. Al-alam here means the whole of the universe, the whole of creation. There's the hadith of the jinns coming to listen to the Prophet Muhammad reciting the Quran, and there's the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud that he said one day we went out to the Prophet Muhammad and then we looked for him, we couldn't find him. We were confused, we were disturbed. Where has he been? After some time, he came and then we asked him, "Ya Rasulullah, where were you?" He said, "A couple of jinns came and they told me that their people need some Daawah. So I went to give them Daawah and I'm now coming back." So his message is not only for humans, it's also for jinns and the whole of the universe. And his message is not only for Muslims, his message is for the whole of humanity, the whole of mankind. Now the Prophet Muhammad he must start work. He's received the message, he must deliver it. But then there must be a methodology for the delivering of this message. There must be a way the message must be delivered. He can't just get up and start delivering the message, because the message is a lifetime message. So rules and regulations or methodologies or rudiments must be put in place in delivering the message. So the message started as the propagation of the message had to start secretly. Because you remember in previous episodes, we spoke that the kuffar in Mecca were deep into idol worship. The strong people were oppressing the weaker ones. The rich were taking advantage of the poor. Women were like chattel. In the Arabian Peninsula at that time, if a person dies and then he leaves multiple wives, his first son inherits the wives of his father. It's only his mother that he doesn't inherit. But the rest of the women, they become his father. And they've got to a point in the Arab Peninsula, a woman will open her gates to many suitors. And then each and every one of them will come and sleep with her. When she is pregnant, she chooses who is responsible for the pregnancy to be her husband. This is the people this is the kind of life that they were leading. They ate carcasses, they drank wine, they were very violent people. They could kill a human being because of a camel, one camel. There is a history of the Aus and Khazraj who fought 40 years because one person from this tribe has stolen a camel from this side. They went to war for 40 years because of a camel. So these are the people that the Prophet Muhammad was sent into. And these people, they were unlettered people. They were there in the heat of the desert. Sometimes they say when we travel and then we are looking for an idol to worship, we don't have an idol to worship. We gather earth, dirt, and then we bring a goat or a sheep and then we milk that goat and sheep and then pour that milk onto the earth and mix it and then form an idol and then we worship. This is how deep they are. The Kaaba alone had 360 idols in it. Every alley and every corner in Mecca had an idol. And it was business. The charlatans will say this idol will give you birth, this idol will give you wife, this idol will give you success. So they were getting monies and animals. As we have today, charlatans, people who call themselves psychics, taking money from people. So all of a sudden, you, an orphan, Muhammad bin Abdullah, your father died before you were born. Your mother died when you were 6. Your grandfather died when you were 8. Your uncle who took care of you is a poor man. Your wife is a widow from 2 husbands. And then you come all of a sudden to tell us, stop all these things. There's going to be an opposition. So the message must be given strategically. So Khadija radiallahu anha, she was the first person to believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as his wife. Now, there are differences of opinion concerning who accepted Islam right after Khadija. Is it Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu or is it Ali ibn Abi Talib? Was it Ali ibn Abi Talib or is it Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu? But most of the narrations say it's Ali ibn Abi Talib who accepted Islam after Khadija radiallahu anha, before Abu Bakr Siddiq. So I think some of the historians were that Khadija is the first one to believe, Abu Bakr is the first one to believe, and Ali is the first child to believe, just to, clear all these differences. And then another person believed, Zayd ibn Haritha. Zayd ibn Haritha used to be a slave. And then a man by name Hakim ibn Hizam bought him from the market of Mecca. And then he came and then he gave him as a gift to his auntie who is Khadija bint Khuwailid. And Khadija at that time is the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Khadija said, Ya Rasulullah or Muhammad, whatever I own is yours. So long as I own this slave boy, he is yours too. So Zayd ibn Haritha was like the manservant or the valet of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the time. It got to a point where this Zayd ibn Haritha, his parents were looking for him. So they found out that Zayd ibn Haritha was with Muhammad ibn Abdullah in Mecca. So they traveled, the father and the uncle came to Mecca and they asked, who is Muhammad? They said, you can't have a better person in Mecca than Muhammad. So long as your son is with him as a slave, you are going to get your son. So the 2 men came in and then they told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam their message. He said, okay, no problem. And then he called the boy and he asked him, do you know this man? He said, yes, that's my father. Do you know the man sitting next to him? He said, yes, that's my uncle. Do you know me? He said, yes, you are Muhammad ibn Abdullah who has been taking care of me. Okay, Zayd, you have a choice now. choose between myself and then your fathers. If you choose your fathers, you go with them without any penny. I'm not going to take anything from them. But if you choose me, I don't have any option but to let you stay with me. Zayd looked at his father, and he looked at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Ya Rasul, Ya Muhammad, I choose you. And then he told the parents, I gave the young man the option, and then he chose me over you. So what are you going to say? His father said, so long as the boy has chosen you over me, it means that you have something great with you. I leave him with you. The Prophet Muhammad came, held the boy's hand and came into the square of Makkah, and then he said, Ya Ma'shar Quraysh, listen, from today onwards, this boy is no longer called Zayd ibn Haritha, he is called Zayd ibn Muhammad. He is my son. I have adopted him. The story is a very long story, and then there is a place for it that where we will discuss. But then Islam later, revoked that system of adoption whereby you adopt someone's child and then you put away their parents or their father's name and then you put your name there. No, it's not allowed in Islam anymore. Yes, you can take in that person, you can take care of them, you can pay their fees, you can pay their lodging, you can do everything for them that you do for your own kids, but then they still maintain your parents' name. That's what Islam says. So Zayd ibn Haritha is considered amongst the early people to accept Islam. Some of the scholars have been saying he even accepted Islam before Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Before Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And then don't forget, Waraqat ibn Nawfal also accepted Islam. So, and there is a lot of hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I saw Waraqat ibn Nawfal in Jannah, he was in white clothes. And this was another hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Waraqat ibn Nawfal will be resurrected on the day of Qiyamah as a ummah on his own. So Waraqat ibn Nawfal also accepted Islam. But now the question is, if you observe these people that we've mentioned them, Rasulullah himself, Khadija the wife, Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was even living in the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The story is that his uncle Abu Talib had a very big family, but that he was not wealthy. So he had issues in trying to taking care of the family. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and one of his uncles called Abbas, the Prophet called him and said, Ya Abbas, your older brother Abu Talib is in a financial crisis. You see, he has a lot of kids. So let's help him. Let's take some of the kids and then let's take care of them. At least it will ease, some of the burden that he has. So they went to him and then they said, okay, we'll take care of some of the kids. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam took Ali, and Abbas took Ja'far, the elder brother of Ali, and then they left some of the kids. So Ali grew up in the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you can see it's a closely knit organization. Abu Bakr is a close friend of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They grew up together. Zayd ibn Haritha is also an adopted child of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all in the same home. The scholars are saying that for an idea or for a vision that you have to be grounded, you need to have people that you trust and there is no way they're going to betray you. It's very, very important. People who are going to be close to you. People who know your pain. People who share in your joy and your pain should be the ones that you start your vision with. And this also takes us back to our point last week that when you're choosing a spouse, choose someone who is quality. Look at Noah and Lot, who were prophets of the Almighty Allah. And when the Almighty Allah was giving examples of those who were kuffar in the Quran, ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط. The Almighty Allah was giving an example of people who are apostated, people who are transgressed against the Almighty Allah. He said, the wife of Noah and the wife of Lot. If the wives of prophets have flipped on them, you think your wife is different? If the wives of prophets have flipped on them, you think that your husband is perfect? Look at Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, and look at her husband. So the opposite is true. You need to be careful who you choose. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to start with these, group of people. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, The first people to, expose their Islam were 7. The Prophet Muhammad himself, Abu Bakr Siddiq, Ammar bin Yasir, we speak about Ammar bin Yasir, and his mother Sumayya, and Suhaib, who was a Roman slave, and Bilal, and Miqdad. These were the 7 people who, at that point in Mecca, everybody knew that these guys, they were Muslims. And majority of them, they were not the only Muslims at that time. There were other Muslims. But these were the ones who were brave enough to come out publicly. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was very wary of that. And then he told them that, no, this message that we have, we need to be very, very careful. If we bring it out publicly, it's going to clash with these people's ideologies and their fantasies and then their desires. They're going to crush us and kill us. But then this message is not for only us. We need to protect it. So the scholars are asking, why is it that the Almighty Allah didn't send Jibreel, and then Jibreel came and then every person in Makkah was turned into a Muslim one time, and that's it? Why is it that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had to go through all this pain, all these tactics, all this strategy, all this secrecy? If his message is true, why doesn't he just mount the Kaaba one day and start reading the Quran? The scholars said, Islam is not a religion based on miracles. Jibreel could have come one time and everybody will be Muslim. Just appear in his angelic form for everybody to see, and then tell them, this Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's a messenger from the Almighty Allah. All of you believe. Who is not going to believe? Everybody is going to believe. But then the issue is that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not going to live eternally. He's going to die. So if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam dies, and then the Muslims are being faced with issues and problems, will Jibreel come again and solve the problem? No. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died and Abu Bakr Siddiq took over, there were some tribes who said, the deen is tied with Muhammad. Muhammad is dead, so no more deen. So they apostated. We are not going to be Muslims anymore. Another group of people said, no, the deen is tied with Muhammad. We will continue being Muslims. But as for zakah, we're not going to give out zakah. So Abu Bakr Siddiq had to what? Had to find strategies to fight these people, to bring them back. So the Ummah was built in facing challenges. Because right at the inception of Islam, we were faced with challenges. Abu Lahab was there. Abu Jahl was there. Walid ibn Mughira was there. Utbah ibn Rabi'a were there. All these people were master tacticians. Don't forget, maybe we'll come to that. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had to make dua. He said, Ya Allah, help Islam with one of these 2 men. Umar ibn Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham. Amr ibn Hisham is Abu Jahl's name. And the name Abu Jahl is the father of ignorance. It is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ who named him that. But then his original name was Abu al-Hakam, the father of wisdom. The guy was a master tactician. He was a serious strategist. Let me give you one of the examples of his strategies. When they couldn't find a way to deal with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, let's kill him. And they were like, if you kill him, who is going to kill him? If one person goes and then he kills him, do you think Quraysh or Banu Abdul Muttalib, the family of Abu Abdul Muttalib, will sit down and just see the person who killed Muhammad just moving around? He said, no problem. We're going to choose one person from each tribe, and we're going to give each and every one of them a very good sword, and they will all go together, and then they will all hit him one time. They've all killed him. Now, will Banu Abdul Muttalib come and fight all of us? We are more than them. The guy was a strategist. So if you are dealing with people like that, you need to be very, very careful. It's the same way in life. When you are dealing with people and you have a vision, you need to be very, very strategic about the vision that you have. Some of us have very, very fast mouth. We will say everything. Our plans are in our heads and then in the ears of other people too. So before we even start the movement, we will be destroyed because people already know of our plans. No. The lesson we pick from here is that when you have a vision, in whatever way, and remember, the vision must be in line with what the Almighty Allah wants, not just any vision. Some people's vision is that they want to go to Las Vegas and make $1 million. What happens in Las Vegas, you know already. So that is not a vision. Your vision must be in line with what the Almighty Allah wants. The Prophet Muhammad was protected by the Almighty Allah. They couldn't do anything to him. Just that the only one who had the guts to do something to the Prophet Muhammad was Abu Jahl. One day the Prophet Muhammad was praying in the Kaaba, and then Abu Jahl came with rotten intestines of a camel. Then he dumped it on the back of the Prophet Muhammad. And Fatima radiallahu anha came and then she cleared it off the back of her father. Abu Jahl does that. One day Abu Jahl came furious looking for the Prophet Muhammad and then he saw Fatima and he asked her, Fatima, where's your father? She said, I don't know. And then he slapped her in the face. And then Abu Sufyan met her, she was crying. And then he asked her, what happened to you? She said, Abu Jahl slapped me. And then Abu Sufyan went to Abu Jahl and then he slapped him back. He said, what is the daughter's fault? If we have an issue with the father, what's the crime of the daughter? And the Fatima came and told her father, he said, Abu Jahl slapped me, and then Abu Sufyan slapped him back. And the Prophet Muhammad said, Ya Allah, the way Abu Sufyan has defended my daughter, Ya Allah, grant him Islam as a gift. And Abu Sufyan became a Muslim through the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad. Don't forget Jamil, the wife of Abu Lahab. And Abu Lahab is the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad. Jamil, her business is that she will find thorns and trash and place it at the doorstep of the Prophet Muhammad. That was her business. And her husband Abu Lahab will also find rotten intestines of camels and come and smear it on the door of the Prophet Muhammad. And Almighty Allah revealed the verse, Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa tab. The hands of Abu Lahab, he himself is destroyed. His hands are destroyed. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. His money and whatever he has accumulated will not be of any benefit to him. Sayasla naran dhata lahab. He is going to enter a ravaging fire. Wa imra'atuhu hammalat al-hatab. His wife who goes around gathering firewood because she wants to disturb the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fi jidha hablum min masad. In her neck, in Jahannama, is going to be a rope which is going to be used to tie her and pull her in Jahannam. Abu Lahab, in this instant, had a very nice opportunity to destroy the Daawah of the Prophet Muhammad. Why? If Abu Lahab had come out and they said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, these verses would have been lied. I hope you get it. If Abu Jahl had come out to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, it means that these verses are not true, because the Quran said Abu Lahab will enter Jahannam, and then he has come to accept Islam. But because the message is clear, the message is from the Almighty Allah, it's not going to change. So when these verses were revealed, the wife looked for a big stone. She said she's looking for Muhammad to break his head. She has heard that some verses in the Quran have been revealed insulting her. So she came and she said, Abu Bakr, where is your friend? And he was sitting next to him. They were sitting together. The Prophet and Abu Bakr were sitting together. And then she came and she was like, Abu Bakr, where is your friend? And Abu Bakr was confused. He looked at her face and then he looked at the Prophet Muhammad. Where is my friend? She said, yes. He was like, how? Okay, you don't want to tell me where he is. Okay, no problem. But give him a message for me. I've heard that he is insulting me. Tell him when I find him anywhere in Makkah, I'll break his head. And then she left. And Abu Bakr turned to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, what's happening? He said, don't worry, she couldn't see me. She was blocked from seeing me, she can't see me. So the Almighty Allah prevented or protected the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in these things. Abu Bakr Siddiq was from a very rich family, a wealthy man, from a noble community, so they couldn't touch him. But even that, Abu Jahl one day beat Abu Bakr Siddiq to the extent that his whole face was swollen. That was the day the Prophet Muhammad was praying in the Kaaba, and they came to harass the Prophet Muhammad, and Abu Bakr stood in to protect the Prophet Muhammad. Already, you know, when your enemies are looking for an excuse to destroy you, any least thing you do, you give them the chance. So all the anger and the frustration that they had in them, they vented it on Abu Bakr. Because he was the one who was buying the slaves and then freeing them. He was the one who was helping the poor people with his money. The whole family of Abu Bakr Siddiq was engineered towards helping Islam. Even the animals in the house were engineered towards helping Islam. Because it is his camels that the Prophet Muhammad mounted and then went to Hijrah with. It was his animals that were being milked and then given as what the milk was sent to the Prophet Muhammad on their way in Ghar al-Thawr for what? For Hijrah. It is his daughters. His daughter Aisha was married to the Prophet Muhammad. His daughter Asma bint Abi Bakr was also married to Zubair ibn Awam, and they gave birth to a child, Abdullah ibn Zubair ibn Awam. So the whole family was engineered towards helping Islam. And then he was wealthy, he was rich. So they were like, no, this guy, we need to do something about him. So that was one time that Abu Bakr Siddiq was hurt. But then the rest of them were from weaker communities and families. So people like Bilal, you know the story, who didn't have anybody with him, had to be severely punished, beaten, left in the heat of the Arabian desert with big boulders on his chest, all because he must what? He must denounce Islam. All because he must make a statement of kufr that will drive him away from Islam, but he refused. One day Al-Khabbab ibn al-Arad came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Ya Rasulullah, we are being persecuted. We are being punished. Ya Rasulullah, is there any dua that you can make so that the Almighty Allah will ease this thing for us? The Prophet Muhammad was covered in a blanket in the shade of the Kaaba. He sat up and he said, Ya Khabbab, you see, this deen will get to where the sun rises and where the sun sets. This deen will get to where you haven't gotten before. But relax. Those who came before you, they were tried and tested and persecuted on their deen. One of them will be brought, and then a saw will be placed on top of his head. Denounce your religion, he says no. And then they cut and cut and cut until they split the body into two, and the person will not stop his day. Well, I came not come to start you. You are in a hurry, relax. This is what the Sahaba had to go through. Sometimes what they did was that they stripped some of the Sahaba naked, and then they skinned a whole camel, and then they used the skin to cover the body of this Sahabi and leave him in the sun to dry. Now the skin of the camel, the hide of the camel it's like it has been glued to their skin. And then they now come and then they are pulling it. Sometimes they skin some of them alive. Sumayya, the mother of Ammar, sometimes those of us who came later, we don't have an excuse. We don't have an excuse. Sometimes some people say we are Muslims in the West, and then if we don't have the freedom to do our religion. Who told you that? Who told you that? These are people who were born and bred in Mecca. These people are people who were from noble families in Mecca. But look at what they went through. Now today we have had Islam on a silver platter. But what are we doing? What are we doing? That is why when the Almighty Allah said, "Radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhum," that's it. The Almighty Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with the Almighty Allah. If anything happens right now, you can just get a ticket and then pop, you're left, you're gone. But then these people, in their own homes, they're being persecuted. Sumayya, the mother of Ammar bin Yasir, they did all they could with her. Abu Jahl had to tie her down in the heat of the Arabian sun. And he uses a spear to push through her womanhood. This is what these people went through. And we come today, you find some Muslims who were like, we are better than the Sahaba. And some even go to the extent of even insulting them and denigrating them, and calling them all kinds of names. Ammar bin Yasir had to watch his mother and father killed right in front of him. Some of them had to lose their wives because they became Muslim. The Kuffar of Makkah devised all kinds of plans, to kill the message right, at its inception. But the Almighty Allah had other things, had other plans about that. So today's class, we spoke about the message starting as what? As a secret message. Because it was a message for a lifetime. And that the Ummah at that inception was not in need of any miracles, because the Ummah had to survive the first test. If the Ummah survives the first test, then the other tests that are going to come, the Ummah will not be waiting for manna from heaven. The Ummah will not be waiting for Jibreel to come down. No, the Ummah has gone through all these persecutions. So Muslims, wherever we are in the world, whether we are in the Wasatiya, where there is a democracy that allows you to practice whatever ideologies you have, or the Muslims that find themselves in fascist, regimes, like in China, where you have Muslim communities like the Uyghur who are being persecuted, they can't do anything. They are being forced to change their names. They are being forced to eat pork. There is a re-education of the Muslim community in China. And then you have the Muslims in Palestine who are also being persecuted by the Israeli forces. And then you have Muslims in Syria and Yemen and Iraq and Libya who are under Muslim leadership, but then at the same time they are under serious persecutions. It's not new for the Muslim Ummah. These kind of problems and persecutions is not new for us. This is how we started. So the Almighty Allah knew that there's going to be a point in time whereby Muslims are going to be under persecution, we are going to be under challenges, we're going to be under difficulty. If these things happen, then we have a reference in the Seerah to go back and see, how did the Prophet Muhammad survive this? How did the Sahaba survive this? How did they go through that? Some of the Muslims at the early stage will speak about that. They had to go to Habasha in a Christian-dominated, kingdom to survive. So our life as Muslims, this is just a repetition of what other Muslims before us have gone through, in terms of the challenges, in terms of the pain, in terms of the successes, in terms of the joys too, in terms of the happiness. So the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, at our first episode that we discussed, that it is shumul, and it is a complete way of life. that a Muslim has solutions in these issues. But then when we close our eyes to the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or look to other sources for the solutions of our problems, we don't have those solutions. As I said yesterday in the class, in the 50 class, that problems that people face or the fatwa that people receive is person specific. And because we are an ummah, and this ummah is 15 centuries old, if you look to the history of the ummah, you will find the challenges that we are facing today were faced by people who came before us. And how were they able to solve these challenges and these problems? My takeaway for today's lesson is that you have a vision like the Prophet Muhammad had. Find strategic ways of what? Of delivering your vision. Pen it down. Put it down in writing. If maybe you cannot write now, you have WhatsApp. Make an audio of it. Plan for the future of your kids. Have that vision and put in place a strategic way of doing that. That is number one. Number two, understand that you're not going to get it smooth. There's going to be leaps and bounds on that. That is one. Number two. Number three, be patient and be determined and be focused on that. Because the challenges are sometimes going to derail you. You need to really quickly come back on track. So if you're not focused and then you're not determined, you're not patient, you are not going to get it. And finally, understand one thing. You might not live to see the fruits of that vision. Sow the seed. Just sow the seed. The Sahaba have not been able, they've not seen America. But the seed that they've sown is, we are here today practicing Islam in this country. We are here today. They might not have seen Indonesia or even the Greenland, the Eskimo regions, but you find Muslims there. So you might not live to see the fruits of whatever vision that you are planting, but then you plant the seed. Today, we are mentioning Abu Bakr Siddiq, we are mentioning Ammar bin Yasir, we are mentioning Sumayya bint Khayyat. This is the role that she played. She offered her life for the deen, and today we are mentioning her. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم. I think we take a couple of questions. I think today we have about 10 minutes for questions. We'll ask you a question, don't worry.